Hey everybody, welcome to Ask the Anabolic Doc, starring Dr. Thomas O'Connor, brought to you by his websites, metabolicdoc.com and anabolicdoc.com. Dr. Thomas O'Connor is the author of America on Steroids, A Time to Heal. You can get that on either of those websites or on amazon.com. You can also check out all his videos on the YouTube channel, Anabolic Doc. And I'm making a regular practice of stealing the topics of his videos and doing my take on them with the doctor a week later because he's got great topics, you know? I steal from the best. How are you today, Doc?
I'm doing excellent. We're on a beautiful spring day up here in the Northeast.
Yeah, I can't complain. It's nice and sunny, 50 degrees.
Yep.
I already started tanning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm psychotic like that. So your video that's blowing up right now was all about Clenbuterol, which is the #1 fat loss drug of all time. Everybody I know who compete, everyone I know who competes, even a lot of people who compete in natural organizations, consider themselves drug-free, use Clenbuterol for cutting, for contest prep, because as we'll get into later, technically it's not a controlled substance, it's not a prescription drug. So, you know, it is banned by the IOC and a lot of these natural federations. That's on their list of banned substances, but I was actually surprised to hear that it's not illegal. So why can't I just buy it? Like, why can't I walk into a Walgreens and buy Clenbuterol off the rack?
Well, so like, you know, that's what, you know, and so you see the comment when a guy said, damn it, and the cops took my clen.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's like when I was doing the research for that one, for Clenbuterol, yeah. I found out that, you know, it's not a banned drug because it can't, only a controlled drug is controlled because it's prescribable, like testosterone and steroids. Technically, some of them are prescribable, so they're controlled, like opioids are.
Right.
You know, in America, we have level 4, like a sleep drug, level 4, and then at level 3, testosterone, and like Ativan.
Okay.
And then the two drugs, which are very heavily controlled, are the narcotic opioids like Percocets, right, oxycodone, and amphetamines like Adderall for ADD. And so the drug is not even a prescribed drug in America, which is interesting because it is prescribed orally over in Europe and other countries for asthma. And if you see some of the comments, there was one comment that said, it works really well for asthma. It's crazy that it's banned here, obviously politically, yeah. But it's not a controlled drug because it's not even it's not even a drug that's seen by the FDA, so it can't be controlled. So it's completely underground.
And you know, I'll get into all the stuff. There's so much to talk about with Clenbuterol, my goodness. But you know, it used to, when I was starting out in my early days of experimenting with drugs. I looked into Clenbuterol and I tried it once and didn't come back to it for many more years because ECA products were around, and I got such great results with, you know, the ephedra, caffeine, aspirin, the ECA stacks. There was no reason for me to look into anything else. But back then, people used to get the I think it was called spirulactone, something.
Yeah.
The trade name. Everyone would just walk over to Tijuana and come back with boxes and boxes of them, where they came in little 10 microgram pills, tiny little pills. But now, if you get it, I'm sure you can still get pills, and people still do get them that way. They must be manufactured overseas. But primarily, I see liquid solutions. You know, the eyedropper, and you got to kind of figure out your dosing. And you better fucking get it right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the most amazing thing that I found. And when I talked to my bro science guys, they said, Doc, you got to talk about super clen, which is that 200 microgram pill.
That's nuts. I mean,
have you heard of super clen?
I have not, but you know, I've been out of the loop because I haven't competed in 6 years, so I kind of got out. I have no use. The drugs to burn fat don't really interest me at this point, so I don't even bother learning about them anymore. That is out. So 200 microgram dose in one tablet.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to chop that up, or? Because you can't.
I swear to God,
who in your right mind would be taking? I mean, that's a huge dose. That's an enormous dose for one day. If you were taking it in installments,
they cut it in quarters for 50.
Okay.
So when you get to the point where you could tolerate the 50 microgram,
yeah,
that like you just do that. I guess it's cheaper. I don't, and Ron, I don't even know if this stuff is even true. I don't know, but enough guys told me, like I do my research. Obviously, I'm walking around with all the stuff that people tell me because another day today, I took 2 new guys in and we got 2 new consults online. So I'm just cruising forward, just amazing stories. And today was more of a regular guy who just likes to do steroids and testosterone for 10 years. He's never competed. He realized he didn't really want to go that far, but he just loves to be on testosterone and blast and cruise. And the other guy was just kind of the similar guy, but did compete back in the day. And now he's like late 40s and he just doesn't, he just wants to be healthy. But I didn't learn anything on so no extreme guys today. But in the last 2 weeks, I took some extreme guys in and I just hear like, some of them are young, most of them are pretty 20s to 30s, and they tell me about the underground. Everyone's doing, the SARMs, all blasting it all together. And Clenbuterol, he was telling me, Doc, you're right, but you forgot about, you didn't mention this, or that. And so I just keep taking in all this stuff. And I don't know, I just have to get it out there once in a while. But when I research it, I want to make sure I talk to, there's about 3 guys I talk to in the world that I see to be, no name mentioned, but they know, you guys know who you are. And I talk to them and those guys tell me like, they're the top bro science guys and they just, incredible what they know. You're one of them too, Ron. You're, I think, one of my bro science guys.
I wouldn't look to me for drug advice, believe me. That's why.
No, but bro science.
I know a little bit.
It's amazing. It's just amazing bro science, Ron.
So you did your videos very well researched, very well structured as always. Like I said, I give you props for you and what is his name? I'm sorry.
Alex.
You guys do a great job together with, you have a table of contents at the beginning, which is outstanding because that's a lot of work to do that. So you first your introduction talked about it is the most widely abused performance enhancing drug. You would think it would be like testosterone or something, but no. I know especially a lot of women who would never touch a steroid in their lives, but clen, yeah, get me some clen. Bathing suit season's coming, get me some clen. Class reunion's coming up. I'm going on a cruise. I need to drop 10, 20 pounds, whatever. Get me some clen. Women love clen. A couple of reasons. I'm going to get, as always, I'm going to get in trouble. But, women biologically do have a tougher time losing fat because they're designed to, carry babies and
hold fat.
Feed babies. So that's just biological. They are designed to hold more fat than men. So their metabolisms are slower. They have a harder time losing body fat than we do. So yeah, of course they're gonna look toward fat burning drugs on a wider scale than men do. And also, this is pure speculation, but it seems to me from all my observations that women have a much harder time staying on a really strict diet, especially going low on carbs. They crave carbs, especially when they're menstruating and stuff, and they get emotional, or their boyfriend breaks up with them, or their friend's boyfriend broke up with them, and they're being sympathetic, and they love bread, they love all kinds of carbs. So anyway, women do tend to look towards fat-burning drugs, and this is the easiest one to get. It's cheap as hell. You don't need a prescription. It's all over the black market. It's not even the black market. You can go online and look up Clenbuterol, research chemicals, Google that. Boom, you're going to get all these websites because, like you said, it's not illegal. You can order it through the mail from a variety of companies, and you're using it for research purposes because we've all got a lab in our house and we're all constantly doing research studies.
Your lab rat. It's for your lab rat.
This is for my rabbit, my albino rabbit. So you can get it that way, and there's a lot of supplement stores I've been to where it's not out on the shelves, but if you go to the guy at the counter and say, and I'm not going to name the stores, I don't want, because who knows, I might need this stuff again someday. You could say, yeah, you got some of that Clenbuterol, and they'll go to the back and they'll come back with it. Here you go. It's the liquid concentration. It's the little eyedropper thing. So yeah, this was developed originally. It was patented in 1977, the actual drug Clenbuterol. I don't know if it was called Clenbuterol at the time, but the chemical structure of it was patented. 1977, so we're going back 42 years, as a bronchodilator for asthma patients. And it was never intended, or it was never put out by any pharmaceutical company in the USA, prescription for human use, which is odd because Why was that? Because we already have so many other
I don't.
asthma drugs.
I have no idea. The FDA thought it was too dangerous, but they did cleanse. It came out for horses though.
Okay. And why would a horse need this?
I swear to God, Ron, I don't know. Horses.
Are they asthmatic? I don't know. Maybe they are. I have no idea.
I don't even know. I just found that out, and I was like, wow, it was cleared for horses only.
Well, it was called, the trade name that you said, it was called something like Ventipulma?
Yeah, Ventipulmin.
So open lung is my best guess for that, right? So I guess they do.
They did nail it down. They further narrowed it to make sure it didn't end up in cattle.
Right.
Because the cattle, there was over in Europe, there was, and again, I read all over for hours for this stuff, and I found there was a snippet of data somewhere where there were people that ingested obviously some cattle had it. It was end up in the meat, maybe the lungs. I don't know how it ended up, and then they ingested it and they end up in the ER, and then they discovered that they want to make sure that it stays in the horses and not the cattle that you eat. I mean, I can't believe it, and that's what I found. Okay,
so the cattle were being administered clenbuterol, and that was somehow still in the meat that people are eating.
If you think about that, Ron, then you think, we give tren to cattle still in this country.
Yeah, why aren't we all jacked and veiny?
Some people, I guess, are jacked, but maybe that's why the estrogen levels are definitely higher on men. This is with no steroids. Like men, we think because people are just getting fatter,
right?
So they have more fat. But no one's going to argue that data shows, it's not even controversial. Testosterone levels are coming down and estrogen levels are going up. But is it because the estrogen levels are? I mean, we have more hormones in our meats. I mean, there's no question about it.
But do we have estrogenic hormones?
Well, wait a minute though. So the steroids, are they converting?
They're aromatizing in the cows?
Do they? Or does the man who eats it or woman, do they aromatize when they eat it? Some processing somehow. But I could tell you, the veterinarian guys and the cattle industry very clear that the steroids we use, if we do use them, blah blah blah, they never end up in the meat. That's bullshit.
How's that possible?
That's impossible.
What are they rinse out the meat or something and it washes out the steroids? Come on.
It's 100. Well, it goes through. Maybe it gets into the skeletal muscle and it delivers and it does its job where it translocates, has the androgen receptor. The cattle get big, obviously, and they feed differently and they eat more and they get bigger and they slaughter them. There is definitely traces of the stuff in the meats. I mean, I'd have to get a lawyer to prove that, I would assume, but they would shut me down. But it doesn't make sense. That's why people in America, things are changing and because of our food chain. Right. And that's just, so clenbuterol, I don't know.
Okay, well, let's go back to clen. So clen is a thermogenic agent, and you discussed that it works through two different mechanisms. It works through the central nervous system by increasing your body temperature. So is it like I imagine that's a temporary response. You take a dose of clen and it's going to raise your core temperature for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so that one mechanism I found that was when I researched across the mechanisms, different experts and data, I found that one of potentially they thought that it works there's thermonuclear, there's regulatory centers, thermoregulatory. Okay. I'm tired. And when you get sick and you have a fever, it's because your body's responding in that thermoregulatory center nuclei in your low brain. So that's the virus and your body's cytokines hit that, and then you trigger a fever, right? Okay. So it's a fever response. Oh, God. This drug, yeah, no, it's true.
So you're giving yourself a low-grade fever every time you take clen.
Well, see now, I will do DMP. DMP's coming up, folks.
Oh, yeah. DMP. In the comments section of your clenbuterol video, there was about 30 requests for DMP video.
I'm doing it. I'm going to do it, and I'll put some stories of a guy that was in the ER or the ICU, and I forgot if he said his temperature was 107 or 108 or I don't know what it was, but he almost died. He cooked himself on DMP. It's true, and guys, you widely used it. Now I've had a lot of guys tell me, with their list of medicines, they put their list. Some guys, when they come to see me, they're ready for the anabolic doc. They have a whole itemized list, pages long, of the history of steroids.
Wow.
I have all this. I have all this in my charts.
Yeah.
And I've seen DMP, and I always ask them, like, wow. And they're like, yeah, you know, I did DMP. Nothing is better than ripping off fat, doc. And I'm like, so clen has some similar properties, and it may actually hit that thermoregulatory center in the central nervous system. So, but I don't think it doesn't hit anything. The DMP does, and I'm going to have to get into that. But
you know, I don't want to start with DMP until we're there.
Oh my
I'll
God!
Go off on a tangent. So the other mechanism is in the actual fat cells itself. Somehow it increases fat burning. So does it do something to the fat cells?
So that's easy. That's an easy one. So this is a sympathomimetic medicine. So what that means is it's a beta adrenergic agonist. So there's beta and alpha cells. This medicine will lock into the receptors in the heart, in the fat adipose tissue, on skeletal muscle, in the central nervous system, and it's flight or fight. Do you know what it's derived from?
Adrenaline?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So it's really a derivative, and I had to read all this stuff in the books, and I always give props out to Bill Llewellyn because he's one of my main reading. Bill Llewellyn's book, I got it on the shelf over there, and then I cross-reference everything, and I put it all together with my experiences from all the guys that have told me. So this is epinephrine, adrenaline, tweaked. And that's what albuterol. So the breather, the bronchodilator, albuterol, right. You breathe it in, and and then your heart rate. If you crank in albuterol, if you've ever used it, your heart. So it's albuterol, clenbuterol. These are similar medicines, the same class of drug. So it hits those receptors in the lungs. It opens up. It bronchodilates. But at the same time, on the heart muscle, in the adipose tissue, it stimulates receptors. They're adrenergic receptors, beta adrenergic, and it's flight or fight. And with that system, you're basically mobilizing the free fatty acids into your bloodstream so you could get away from the danger.
So if that's, albuterol is very similar to clenbuterol. So were people using these inhalers? Are they seeing any kinds of like fat loss results that they're not even looking for? You
know what? So let me tell you a story. It's just not tolerated though, because you get the clen shakes, and if you see anyone who cranks a lot of albuterol, people come to see me as a doc. When I used to be the primary care guy, they come in with asthma or they're sick with a respiratory cold and virus, and they're getting asthmatic, or they have COPD, smokers, and they crank a lot of these drugs. I check their vital signs. Their heart rate's over 100 beats. Their heart rate's, they're cruising. So they're doing this drug, and then you're not going to do, and there is albuterol comes in a liquid form, yes. But people mobilize it because they breathe it in. But it's not to be ingested orally. If you'll die if you did. So
I've seen it in like a cough syrup type of preparation before.
That's right. So and primatine.
Primatine.
Primatine, there's your adrenaline. There's your the pills of remember the primatine stuff, because it's pseudoephedrine. It's Sudafed.
When ephedrine was banned, ephedrine was banned, everybody ran out and got all those products immediately.
Now, it's still out there. So you just got to you got to sign your license. You can get only a small amount of primatine or ephedrine, Sudafed for decongestant. So this is no one's really losing weight if they're chronically doing it, but I guess they could. But the interesting thought is, why is it muscle building on top of fat burning? And I worked at New York Medical College, 1994, 93, 94. I was on a PhD fellowship before I dropped out to do the MD line. Yeah. And I was in a lab, and we were studying muscle. I was in cardiology lab, physiology, and muscle physiology. Oh. We were studying Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, and we had real. He was studying the effects of clenbuterol, because he was trying to determine if it's anabolic, and it looks like it is. If you do, and guys argued me on my website, They argued the comments, and you know there is research. Again, I spent some time. I found a few articles where it actually goes into the skeletal muscle, and it translocates. And again, for all the expert exercise physiology PhDs, bring it on, man. I mean, just give us comments. Yeah. I could be wrong. I have to do a lot of stuff during the day. I'm the Anabolic Doc, but what do I know about Clenbuterol really scientifically? I'm just trying to report what I know as far as it's a beta adrenergic agonist. Heart rates go up. It has side effects. Does it cause muscle building on top of fat burning? It might. It was looked at for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which is, you know, those children, those poor children that they have, Jerry's kids, I guess it was.
Right. It's a telethon. It's a telethon every year for 40 years.
Correct. So that's Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. I was studying it for a few months when I was a lab rat. I was a grad student. I had to work and I had to make all these baths up, and I was like, oh wow, mixing up Clenbuterol. This is 1990s, and we knew then it was abused then. It was used by bodybuilders then.
So it was just never really pursued. That research was never pursued further, so we don't know.
Just like the Anavar and the Equipoise and the Anadrol for AIDS, like I need to go back and find, if I had any time in life, where doctors were really using this stuff. And for postmenopausal women, so like, where's the real can a real doctor stand up and come forward and tell us, like, did they use this stuff? Does it help Duchenne's?
I saw one, like, I wish I had I'm not good at quoting the abstracts, and I can't tell you where this came from, but I know I saw there was one study that found that it did seem to have a mild muscle building effect, but it was counteracted by a decrease in exercise performance.
Wow.
And a lot of people seem to be a little bit weaker, little less endurance when taking Clenbuterol.
Well, you're jittery. You're jittery.
I mean, that's the one thing I hated was I would look at my hand, it looked like I had palsy. It was embarrassing.
Clenched.
People would notice and they'd be like, "What's something wrong? Are you okay?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's just clen. I'm on clen." And then I had to explain what clen was, and they'd say, "You're an idiot." Yeah, I think it's time to go into the side effects.
Let's go.
Oh boy, increased heart rate, which was probably the most dangerous aspect of this. Well, then we get into AFib and stuff, but let's start there. So you've seen cases of people with heart rate up to 180 beats per minute.
Easily. I've seen hundreds of cases, hundreds.
As someone who knows all about the heart, because why is that extremely dangerous? What can happen when your heart rate gets that high?
So it's a stress test, right? So if you and these are amazingly, obviously, all young people that if they have any kind of the beginning of plaque in the artery, it's stable. So when you crank the heart rate up that high, you can't talk easily. You're short of breath. You're sitting there running in place. You're running on a treadmill, or you're cranking as fast as you can, but you're sitting there. So we actually use drugs to stress test people that can't because their legs are dysfunctional. We use these drugs to crank the heart rate up on people all the time. So that's called a chemical stress test. People don't know this, but any medical guys out there know it. So this is, and we use other medicines to cause that. They didn't use Clenbuterol. They could use Clenbuterol though. So your heart rate is running that fast. If your heart is dysfunctional, it's going to bring out the dysfunction, and it could be on electrical side. If you have an electrical dysfunction, like you have long QT syndrome, Wolff-Parkinson-White, if you have one of these classic inborn electrical abnormalities, you're done. You're dusted.
Like a heart murmur, would that be one of them?
No. A heart murmur is like a structural. Well, a heart murmur could be. I mean, for a murmur from an electrical. See, Ron. Medicine is very complex. This is of cardiology. There's 5 types of cardiologists. There's general cardiology, interventional cardiology, electrophysiology. There's guys that just put in pacemakers, which are kind of EP, and then there's other guys that just do heart failure. And there's probably 3 or 4 other ones I can rip off. Wow. So that's just the heart. So this is a complicated organ. So when the heart's cranking, and you're going to find the weak link. So you'll end up in the ER, panic attacks, short of breath, and it certainly looks like they're having a heart attack, and they have to worry. So they run I've seen Ron, hundreds and hundreds of people say they end up in the ER from Clenbuterol, and most of them go home. You know, I've heard of a few guys it pops them into AFib, and then they took clen, they popped in my story on the video. I think I said it. A guy has irreversible atrial fibrillation, and they tried to ablate him. Again, I know this is very complicated for guys who aren't medical guys, but when you have AFib, the top part of your heart is fibrillating. And actually, it happens to like older people and people that have genes for it, like they're 40 even, hypertension, and just happens to people. And then we try to break them out of it. If you have any money and you go to a decent medical center, and if they could map out where it is, it's in the pulmonary veins commonly, and you go into these multiple $1 million electrophysiological cardiology studio suites in the hospital, and they map it out. I did some of this when I was a student, a resident. I was interested in it, and they'll burn it out. They burn it out, and then it goes away. They couldn't burn this guy's out. They did it 3 times. And they just typically have to do it sometimes more than once. They gave up, and the doctor said, and I talked to this guy years ago because I called the doctor. I'm interested. So I called, Doc, what's up with it? Oh man, this Clenbuterol stuff, it definitely appears like for this guy, it permanently damaged that electrical area of his heart. And I've heard this before. So that's possibly true.
So is AFib why people need pacemakers installed?
No, not AFib. That's just having other issues with having slow beats and pauses between the beats of your AV node, but not a good question though. Not AFib, not atrial fibrillation.
AFib is an irregular heartbeat.
AFib is definitely an irregular heartbeat, but it's not a ventricular problem. It's above. It's a supraventricular tachycardia. It's SVT, and people, half of them won't even feel it if they're young because the mid part of the heart blocks it. So it just runs at a rate of like 3 or 4 to 1, 2 to 1, and your heart rate can go up or down. But people feel palpitations. I mean, I've diagnosed it dozens and dozens of people, just not steroid users. I'm doing a blood pressure. They told me they have palpitations or they're dizzy, and then I listen to the heart. And I hear boom, 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 boom. It's a regular heart rate. And then I do an ECG. I do my own EKG in the office. And then the EKG says they have AFib, but you can read it. And then you send them to the, if they're dangerous, they could have a stroke. So you put them in the hospital. If you think they're stable, you put them on, Lovenox or other new medications. And then for anticoagulation, you send them to cardiology. And this is our bread and butter. So like that drug though can pop people into AFib. I mean, it does.
Here's a good question. So we know that these heart palpitations, the clen causes that. Is it dose dependent? Because we just talked about this underground drug called super Clenbuterol. What if some dumbass, the 200 microgram pills, someone's an idiot and pops like 4 of them at once?
So if you pop 4.
Yeah, that would be, 4.
You're dead. You're dead.
You die. Okay. Your heart rate would go so fast that you would die?
You know what, Ron? The body is an amazing miracle machine. And if you're older and if you're weak, if you have a weak link and you have structural heart disease, I mean, you're not. So, and people were the bodies. People die all the time from, they get drunk and they go to sleep and they aspirate, they throw up in the night and they don't, I mean, this is common stuff. And there was an ENT that commented, I think from Australia or something. I mean, we have the whole world going on now. Yeah. And you know what? These guys are great. The EMT guys, they see all this stuff. He actually commented on something, thanks Doc, because when I'm in a city with a lot of bodybuilders, and when he goes on the call, he needs to know the stuff because he's obviously seems like he's not like doing it himself. Yeah. And some guy put him down. What does being an EMT have to do with Clenbuterol? And I'm like, he needs 100%. Anyway, I don't want to get crazy on my own website. Thank you for commenting, everybody. But I mean, Clenbuterol, it hits the heart hard, man. Hard, it hits the heart. But guys take little doses. You build tolerance to it very quickly, right?
Right.
So I love the streets of bro science because things that are true.
Nobody, there's no, even the gurus all disagree on the best dosing method. Wow. It's probably because it's, people people respond to it differently. So you can't say
Correct.
start on 20 and then go to 100, do that for 4.
Correct.
There's no blanket prescription for how to use it best. I mean, I should probably hit the Tuliados up with this one. I wonder what he's got to say about clen.
Yeah. George knows this really well.
Yeah. But, you know, because I've been asked many times, I'd say, I can tell you how a lot of people use it, but that doesn't mean, that's not a guarantee that it's going to work best for you. But like you said, it's got a short half-life. The body gets used to it. What's the technical term for that?
Downregulate,
Down regulation.
tolerant. Yeah.
So you can't use it continuously, you know, for weeks on end, and the results at some point you're going to see no results at all. That's why people, they'll do it for a certain amount of days, or they'll taper up, then they'll stop for a couple of days, and so on and so forth. So it's got deadly side effects, but some of these effects are just so annoying. I mean, I hated the shaking and insomnia. Absolutely. I hated that. When I was taking Clenbuterol, a lot of times I'd be up at, you know, you'd go to sleep at like 11, wake up at 1, can't get back to sleep again until 3,
Wow.
sleep until 4, 4:30, and then I was up and couldn't get back to sleep at all. You know, it was brutal because, you know, you're in prep, you're dieting for a contest, you're already working out for an hour, hour and a half, you're doing an hour, maybe more of cardio a day, you're dieting. The last thing you need is lack of sleep.
Wow.
So it's a rough drug, but you know, if it didn't work so well to burn fat, people around the world, everybody, and like you pointed out in your video, it's not just bodybuilders, not just fitness girls, it's not, you know, figure, it's celebrities, it's
I know. I can't.
housewives, it's anybody. Everybody uses this damn drug.
It really works, doesn't it, Ron?
It does. You know, like steroids, all these drugs. If they didn't work, they wouldn't be used.
We wouldn't have a show.
Exactly. Well, you still have a show, but yeah, the thing about the liquid clen that I wanted you to sort of comment on is, you know, it's totally unregulated. These aren't being made by pharmaceutical companies, so nobody's overseeing them and testing the purity and the concentration and the dosing. And like we just pointed out, if you take too much of this stuff at once, you're in trouble.
Big time.
I there's no way I don't think anyone's got a testing kit for Clenbuterol to see how well your liquid clen is concentrated. So you're really rolling the dice. You know, you could sort of go by how shaky does it make me feel? How much heart palpitations am I getting? Am I sweating? But these liquid concentrations, not only that, is you don't really know what you're getting. Another issue is because micrograms are a tiny amount. So they'll dilute it and they'll say, you know, 1 ml equals X, you know, 25 micrograms or whatever. There's math involved here. And I'm not a moron, but I'm not very good at math. And I'm sure a lot of people are like me, where numbers just I'm sort of dyslexic with numbers at times. And when we're talking about drugs that can potentially have deadly side effects, that's a big concern that you could be easily overdosing on this stuff. 1
decimal to the left or to the right, you're done.
They lost me at long division, Doc. So
that's awesome.
That's how I tapped out. Long division. I'll see you next year, guys.
Calculators.
Yeah, or Google or something. But you know, have you seen that in your practice where guys have told you, you know, they thought they were taking X amount, but they probably weren't?
God.
No.
So I have the drug dealers, and right. I mean, I've had all the guys that are in jail and they're dead. They're either in jail, out of jail, and or dead. So like all throughout my whole career as the Anabolic Doc, you know, going back 15 years, and I remember one guy told me, now he's a chemist, and he said, you know, you got to be so careful because when they're weighing it out on a very a lab. This is microgram. It's 1/1000th of a gram. So you're weighing it out on the wax paper, and he himself was using his own stuff, and he said, I did 1 slip of a decimal, and he took 10 times the dose that he wanted. He didn't die, but his heart rate, again, that's one of the guys where he was like, woo, and his heart rate, and he cruised it out. He drove home from his lab or his work, and he said he sat in his car for 4 hours. He waited till his heart rate went down to the 150.
Gripping the wheel like this.
He was going to go to the ER, but he just said he didn't want to he didn't want to tell anyone. So he sat in the car for hours and hours and hours, and his heart rate was cranking out of just under 200 beats per minute.
Yeah. Well, you can't give this advice because you're a medical doctor. I'm a bro science guy, so I'm going to say this to anybody out there. If you get some liquid clen, You know, if you're not able to get the standardized 10 microgram, 20 microgram tabs, the smartest course of action would be to start with a very tiny dose, much less than you think you're even supposed to start with, and assess your tolerance, because that's a one way where you might know that your stuff is dosed much higher than it says on the label. It might be double, triple, 10 times the concentration it's supposed to be. And if it's weaker, well, just use a little more. You're not out, you know, you're safer that way. So
we say in the medical world, start low and go.
Oh, okay. I like that. That makes more sense. Because, you know, in the recreational drug world, back from my clubbing days, that's what people would do with things like ecstasy. Because another thing where there's no standardization of tablets, you know, you wouldn't tell someone just take a full tab or take 2 tabs. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but with anything, anytime you're getting an underground black market drug, you never know exactly what you're getting. So err on the side of caution. Start very, very small.
Yeah.
Don't be in a rush. Don't be trying to use double the dose because I got to be ripped by Friday. You know.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, another thing that I thought was interesting, for people that are bipolar, which is like everybody these days, right? It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It stimulates mania, Clenbuterol. So bipolar people, they go through these phases of being manic or depressive, or I don't know. Am I saying it right? I don't want to piss anyone off.
It's really, you know, I'm not a psychiatrist, but being a primary care doc and now the Anabolic Doc, metabolic,
Yeah.
for such a long time, so I've seen many patients, guys come in and say they ended up in the ER, or they have bipolar depression. You don't need to have the low for bipolar depression, I learned years ago. Okay. You just need to have a sustained manic episode that fits the criteria, and then you are considered bipolar. But you don't need the low. You just need to have the high. So, and again, I'm not a psychiatrist. But the truth is, when you have bipolar, which so many people do, so many people have even, you know, there's no such thing as this is bipolar. People have pieces of it, and they have different time of their lives. They'll have different manifestations of it or tendencies. Now, I take care of some of the most, you know, apart from bodybuilders, I take care of some of the most successful men in the world that own small companies and big companies, even politicians. So these are men that are very busy. They're able to get a lot of work done in the day. And, you know, these are men that actually, they've used their mania to help them. But if you talk to all of them, they will tell you there are periods in their life, certainly when they were younger, if they're now in a period where they've done well, and I learned looking back, they say, where my mania, you know, I could be up for a day or two and no one could outwork me. That's mania. And that destroys relationships, pressured speech, you know, hyper all over the place with ADD. These are men. These are super successful men. Now, when you can control that to harness that energy, game on. Yeah. So these men have told me they've taken Clenbuterol, woo, game over. So I want people to know, you have any mania going on, you have any bipolarness at all, and you try this drug, that's a panic attack on steroids. I mean, so, you know, this is all true stuff. These stories all come from just patients that have told me this stuff. It's all common sense.
Now, I'm going to hit you with a question that you had no preparation for, so if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But do you know offhand, are there any other prescription drugs or recreational drugs that have a very bad interaction with Clenbuterol?
Well, that's an easy question, actually. So it's a drug that's a beta adrenergic agonist. So any medicine that is going to interact with that is like caffeine, and if you take any amphetamine. So if you're on Adderall for ADD, you know, and that increases the heart rate, by the way.
Yeah.
So
double whammy.
So the double whammy stuff. But so there you go. So if you're on amphetamines, but if in the medical world, most drugs run through mainly the liver, and some are renally cleared. Yeah. And some actually clear inside the endothelial and through just your circulation. Not to mention they clear in the central nervous system, secondary metabolites, and very complicated. But if you look for interaction of some drugs will speed up the metabolism of another drug. Other drugs will slow it down so it builds up. So, and that's when I remember working in the when I worked in the Institute of Health. I don't know, I could say the name IOL up here at Hartford Hospital. It's their hospital. It's a psychiatric hospital, and they made me work in all these places, right? New York City and Hartford for months and months for 4 straight. My residency training was 4 straight years.
Wow.
So yeah, it was awesome. It was
awesome.
It
is to be a doctor.
it's a pain in the ass. Sometimes we worked 30-something hour shifts, 100 hours a week.
I'd be an arrogant fuck if I was a doctor. I'd be like, you know what? How long this took? How much money this cost me?
Not easy to get that. Not easy to get the MD. Exactly. So for all the MDs that are out there, it's a brother sisterhood. So, and not putting down the nurses or anyone else. People all work hard, but it's now this day and age with doctors getting shit on so much, I think, and the lawsuits, and then no doc is going in to get rich. And I tell kids, because I train a lot of doctors now, you're not going into this to get rich. I'm not doing it. I'm not rich, and I'm rich in happiness, and I'm rich in my heart because you're helping healing. So find your type of healing. But doctors are tired and they're in stressful scenarios. So I worked in the Institute of Health, the IOL, Institute of Living at Hartford Hospital's premier psychiatric hospital. I remember seeing all the schizophrenic patients smoking cigarettes like crazy. And they were like, the chief told me, Dr. O'Connor, make sure that we have to know how much they're smoking. And I go, we want them to smoke? No, depending on how much they smoke will affect the metabolism of the schizophrenic drugs.
Wow.
So, and I was like, whoa. So if they're smoking, it's burning off the drug.
Because nicotine is.
Yeah, correct. So it's called a cytochrome P450. So you asked a question. I know. You know me. You asked me a question. George knows this. Cytochrome P450. So when these drugs will have if you look in the pharmacopoeia online, you'll see what any drug that the FDA has approved, how it affects all these other list of drugs. So that's your question. There's your answer.
It's when you first started answering it, you hit the nail on the head, because caffeine, everyone that's using clen, maybe there's a couple rare exceptions. These people who are in prep, you're tired because you're on low carbs, you're doing this cardio, and you're losing sleep from the clen and the low calories anyway. They are putting away so much coffee, so many energy drinks every day. So these people, I'm just going to take a guess, 1,000 milligrams and upward of caffeine a day on top of all the clen. So I guess they should really pay attention to the thumping away in their heart that they're feeling.
But their heart rates, I'm telling you, this is where people are going to hear this. They're going to resonate. They're going to be like, whoa, the doc's right. Like, they come in to see me and their heart rates are cranking. My resting heart rate is in the 50s. I checked it this morning because I'm doing a lot more mountain biking. Yeah. So my heart rate's way under 60, and that's called a bradycardia. It's a tone. It's a parasympathetic tone, because when you're in good shape aerobically, your heart rate, and some of the amazing marathon athletes and bikers, heart rates are in the 30s and 40s, and this is well known. I have a few patients that are the road bike guys. Yeah. His heart rate's in the 40s. I send him to a cardiologist just to make sure everything is okay. He's perfectly fine. So when your heart rate's sitting in the 90s to 100, that's not normal. So people, and then on top of caffeine, and then you put, and I've done a lot of consultations with women, and they come in on all the drugs, including clen. And I remember when I do the vital signs, I'm like, I'm listening to the heart, the stethoscope, doing the blood pressure, and the heart's like, I'm like, I go, your heart rate's 102 beats per minute. Oh, I know, I'm on clen,
Your heartbeat sounds like a rave concert.
I mean, I'm just trying to tell the truth. And then she's like telling me, God, I end up in the ER, panic attack. I mean, but what's amazing? People still do it. It must be so amazing. It must work so well, because so many people, including me, we're all squirrely. People have medical worries. I'm like a hypochondriac myself, from time to time. And people are doing these drugs, and they come to me and they tell me all this, doc, oh my God, why I was doing it. Then it's like, and we're all just normal. That's the spectrum of being normal. Right. And isn't it amazing that we're doing, we take these drugs?
Well, I mean, not everybody wants to get big, but almost everybody wants to lose body fat.
Absolutely.
I mean, watch TV commercials and how many fat loss products are out there, and gimmicks and pills and gadgets, because we're an overweight country and people don't want to diet. They don't want to have to do a bunch of cardio. And when we get into my world, where people are really trying to get to extremely low levels of body fat, single digits, it's very difficult because the body fights you. The leaner you get, the more your body fights you and wants to get back, stay right there, homeostasis. No, we're good. Doesn't want to get. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a necessary evil to reach the level of condition that's required now. Very few people can get that lean without the use of something.
So are the pros, Ron, are the pro bodybuilders, are they, and no names mentioned, are they mainly all doing some clen at the end?
Of course. Wow. Forget about pros. I mean, I'm at a gym where there's this is contest season. Now we're into contest season. It's going to go from now until basically November. And
wow.
There's always a bunch of people walking around in prep, and I doubt a single one of them is not on clen. So wow. This is a very timely time for you to do your video and for us to do this video together, because this is prime clen season, bro. Nobody's using clen in November and they're not using it in January. They're using it in the spring and the summer to either just to look good or just because they're going to get up on stage in a little tiny bikini or a thong, and they need to show some cuts and veins and striations, and it ain't easy.
Wow, Ron.
Well, Doc, yes, we did it again. Another awesome collaboration.
One thing I want to say, so some guy, I wore my suit last time because I'm just trying to be professional, and some people asked me, so I put my suit on, and some guy goes, Doc, it looks like that suit was really big for you and you wore it when you were bigger. And some guy wrote, that's the Doc's bulking suit.
You wore a suit for one of your videos?
I wore the suit for the clen. Did I wear the suit?
I mean, you always have the scrubs on when we do ours.
No, I wore the suit for the clen. Let me see. I think did. Well, I'm so brain dead. Yeah, I wore the suit. Oh, Prima Bowling.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Prima Bowling.
It was a formal video. It was a formal occasion talking about Primo, I guess.
I just decided to put the suit on. I may keep it on. I may just go on. I don't know. But I just wanted to.
You're the doc. I think you should dress like a doctor.
Once in a while. Yeah.
Well, sometimes the fancy doctors don't they walk around with a suit with like the stethoscope?
Yes, the scrub underneath. It's all different stuff we can do.
I've seen it all. All right. Well, thank you, doctor. Thanks for enlightening everybody. Thanks for letting me steal your video content once again. You're very good like that. Want to remind everyone again, here's the book. Lots of great info in here. America on Steroids, A Time to Heal. Lots of great info on the websites, metabolicdoc.com, anabolicdoc.com. And if you're always wondering, hey, how do I contact the doctor? Well, contact every website. Both those websites have a little button that says contact, and he is available for consultations. He's very, very busy, but he's trying to do as much help
all over the world.
All over the world. You could be
feeling now. I mean, the whole world. I do 1 to 2 consultations on Zoom, Skype, or FaceTime every day. At least 1 or 2. Sometimes I may do 3 or 4 a day.
No, I see it because a lot of times it'll pop up in my corner. It tells me when someone on my contact says Dr. Thomas O'Connor is online. I go, oh, he's doing a consult right now.
Yeah, it's unreal. And it's like I start sometimes at 5 or 6 in the morning, and I'll sometimes do them. It's not work for me, Ron. I created this monster, so it's so fun.
Cool. Well, everybody, also don't forget to check out his YouTube channel, Anabolic Doc, which has pretty much every video that I've been doing the last 8 weeks or so. He has the more comprehensive video with all the legitimate information on it, arranged very well and easily understood and in a sequence, unlike where I jump around like a madman. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Dr. Thomas O'Connor, as always, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with all the viewers. And that's it. We'll see you next time on Ask the Anabolic Doc. Thanks for watching.